Today on the Miniature Models Podcast, we take a trip back to an often overlooked decade in railroad modeling that is experiencing a lot of newfound love. Why is this time period so fascinating for those who model and collect it? And what does this tell us about how our hobby is evolving? All this and so much more. So get your ticket from the station, grab your seat, and make sure you don't miss the train. Board! Good evening, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to episode 76 of the Miniature Models Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, John Schwartz, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts, Matt R., Matt Z., and Johnny. How are we tonight, gentlemen?
Doing pretty good, man. I'm excited for tonight's episode. We're talking MPC in the 70s. That's be really fun.
I am equally excited for tonight's episode. I like the 1970s. I was born in the 1970s, so this show's for me.
I no longer like the 1970s.
You're off the show.
No, I'm very excited. It's going to be a great show tonight, gents.
Yes, indeed it is. And we are not alone tonight. We have a special guest with us joining the conversation, and that is Brendon from I Want My MPC. How are you tonight, Brendon?
Good. Happy to be with you guys tonight.
We are happy to have you, sir. Thank you for joining us. So yeah, we got a lot of big, important stuff coming up in our little train community here. And what's everybody been up to recently? Nedar, go. What you got?
All right, on the spot. Just been working on my layout just a little bit with laying down some ballast on the track, and I'm actually working on my town center. In fact, Mr. Johnny and his lady friend and Jason came over last week, and they helped me pick up some spots, maybe for some buildings, and they even did some work on the layout. Johnny's girlfriend actually added some vegetation and landscaping updates to my mountain tunnel, and it looks friggin' awesome. Let me tell you that. So I've been using that as kind of like a base to continue to work off of. So I'll be honest, I haven't done too much, but I am using it as kind of like a springboard so I can do a lot more. And then, of course, I am still working on the my layout update video, which will come out eventually in this decade.
You sound like me, Matt. You sound like me when it comes to making videos, dude. We switching places now?
Yeah. Johnny, how about yourself?
Oh, goodness. The last week has been so busy. I don't know what I've been doing train-wise. I think the biggest train thing I've done was actually going to your place, like you mentioned. I went there with my girlfriend and with Jason, and we went over there and we helped him out with doing some scenes and planning some areas. And really, I think she wasn't the one who did most of the work that night, just sitting there at the working in your tunnel portal scene. And I think it's really helpful to have. She's an artist, and I think it's really helpful to have that kind of perspective when you're working on a layout. Like, we're all like, oh, well, prototypically this would go here and this would go there, and this type of dirt would be used this type of part of the country. And it's nice to have, like, if someone who's not into trains, who's got that artist eye, and they're like, well, you need to pop a color here, and this would really balance it out here. And that was really fun to kind of see how she was able to tackle your layout. And then I was also able to grab some rolling stock from you. I went in buying the old style Rail King 10-wheeler from you, and that's a really awesome little steamer with the Overton cars and the bobber caboose. But I wasn't expecting to walk away with basically an entire modern consist to go with my Jeeps. But we did some digging underneath the layout. And you found some cars, and I emptied my wallet and I bought a bunch of them from you. So they've been great to run, and they're actually on the layout right now. So thanks for that, Matt.
You don't think you were going to leave like empty-handed, did you?
I had to raid you of whatever rolling stock you haven't sold yet.
That's all right. Make some room.
Well, it's funny because I'm getting... So you know those gallery cars, those Amtrak gallery cars you sold to Matt Z?
Yeah.
That you just shipped to him and he just got today?
Yes.
He's sending those straight back to me.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So they gotta go on a lovely trip to New York. Now they get to come back.
I take the
They
scenic
just had a
route.
little vacation.
Yeah.
Yep. I was talking with Carmine. We're gonna repaint those into two-tone SP colors for future gallery cars that Beth Marshall's doing. But yeah, a lot of great stuff, and it's been a lot of fun.
That is fantastic. Brendon, what about you, sir? How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm good.
What you been up to recently? Anything exciting?
Well, I got that one car. Remember when I thought I had all the separate sale banner box rolling stock for like a year, and then I found out I was actually missing one.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were a huge liar.
I was. So that's supposed to come tomorrow, which I'm excited about.
Oh, that's awesome. It's always good to get more stuff into your collection there. You excited for York coming up?
Yeah, I am. I'm curious to see what I could find, if anything.
Yeah, Brendan's funny. He always goes, "Oh, I'm probably not going to find anything," and then anyone going out to look for him, like me, Johnny. Remember with going out to Chicago, I found a gigantic freaking set that you now had to ship back to me, which is apparently got like one of the holy grails of MPC collecting inside of it. So Brendon is very anxious to receive that. I'm sure.
Definitely.
It's been sitting there for so long. Like for as long as I've been going to this store, not that I've been going there for super long, but that's just been sitting there. So I'm glad that someone was able to appreciate the rarity of that set, and it's going to a good home. So I'm super glad you guys are going to get that soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, so is Matt Z back? Let's just stop for a second here. Is he back? What's he doing?
Pissing, I don't know.
Is he AFK? Should I imitate him? Do a bit where I am Matt Z.
I've been getting some trains and Matt, you got me that box, and I'm pretty excited about that. And
pretty good there, man. I'm doing okay. I got a lot of stuff coming up there. I bet you guys are gonna have fun at York, and it's gonna be a good time.
I'm looking forward to tonight.
Black licorice.
It's gonna be great, man. We're excited.
Anchovies. Hey, I'm walking here.
I'm Matt G. I can't stand Penzi. No, it's I really don't like it. It's not a good railroad. I think New York Central's better.
I think you're doing an impression of me doing a Matt Z.
I am doing an impression of Matt Z. You can keep whatever you want from that in.
Sure.
Oh, alrighty. Well, so let's go ahead and get our topic rolling here. And our topic tonight is going to be, some of the stuff Brendon collects, the MPC era of Lionel, but also just the 1970s as a whole, because I don't know about you guys, but I've been seeing a lot more people just interested in, things outside the so-called quote-unquote golden age of railroading, the steam era, when everything was, profitable and doing really well with passenger trains and all that sort of stuff. So we've been seeing this kind of interesting resurgence or just initial, awakening of 1970s and, even later appreciation, 60s and 80s and all that. So I pose the question, what makes the 1970s interesting? Mr. Brendon, I'm going to shoot that off to you there.
Okay, well, the reason why I find it interesting is that was like a time of change in America. So a lot of the things that were consistent started to be a little different. I mean, just from the music to the TV shows and everything like that, and everything that was going on at the time. And the railroads, of course, reflected that too, since railroads are a part of society themselves. And like with the 70s, well, starting in the 60s, one thing I really like are all the revamps of the logos and everything. Like my favorite one is like the CN, when they redid that one in the 60s. I think that one's just iconic.
It is. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, all the rebranding and everything that kind of bring, the mod kind of look that sort of crept in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too because like you get this weird blend in the 70s of like it's always kind of been in my head. It's like it's kind of like the last analog decade. It's the last like old fashioned decade, kind of where things were still, kind of the old world, but like the ultimate form of like, typewriters and some places were even still using telegraphs and just everything being manual and before we got like computer digitization, all that stuff crept in. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting era. Do you guys, everybody else, I'll pose the question, Johnny, Matt, or Metzi, what do you guys find interesting, if anything, about the 70s? Just as a whole, railroading, whatever. What do you guys think?
Bell bottoms, salad cream, James May. Is that a good summarization? I don't know too much about that time period, to be honest with you. It's not one that I usually look into. I guess Southern Pacific wise, that's when it was heavily into Bloody Nose, and that's when you see all their beautiful, colorful, streamlined trains turn into that very clean silver and red paint scheme. I've kind of been investigating that more as I've been modeling my Sunset Limited, but it's so weird because you see it like a hodgepodge of, and this is kind of blending in with the 60s a little bit too, but like seeing a hodgepodge of like SD40s and then with like F units or F unit B units behind them and on the lead of that train. It's just such an odd in between era for them.
It definitely is. It definitely is. What about you, Matt R?
Yeah, so a couple of maybe some facts. How about some cool facts about
Always
the
good down for
1970s
some
Lionels?
knowledge.
So first, the 1970s actually is when the Lionel plant in Mount Clemens, Michigan, opened for business. Also, Lionel purchased the American Flyer name and tooling, and they ended up resurrecting the S-Gauge brand under the General Mills toy group Fun Dimensions.
Good man,
Remember
you got the name right.
Fun Dimensions.
You live another day.
It's a fundamental thing, right? So let's hop into 1974. So this cover, if you guys remember this cover, it had a dad with like two daughters on it, and they were like, and also there's a Santa Fe engine pulling that on their picture. Just wanted to make a note of that. But this cover was actually created in response to a 7-year-old girl who wrote into Lionel and said that girls like trains too. So I thought it was kind of cool. Not sure if you guys knew that or not, but
I did not know that.
Fun facts.
We exist too.
That's right.
We don't want to be patronized too with pastel-colored steam locomotives. Shocker.
But other than that, obviously I was born in the 70s, but I didn't run any Lionel trains in the 70s. But I remember there's a gentleman on YouTube who goes through catalogs all the time. I think it's Don's Trains. For the last couple years, he'll like take old catalogs, and he did like the entire like 1970s. And it was just cool just for him flipping through that catalog and looking at all the offerings that Lionel had for folks in the 1970s. And just really cool to reminisce and it'd be nice to, I imagine Brendon, you probably have quite a few number of sets from the 1970s.
Yeah, I do. Yes.
Yeah.
He has so many.
Is there one, I don't want to jump too far into this, but I'm curious, is there one that really stands out for you that like is like your favorite one?
Well, my favorite one, without any of the weirdness, is the 1972 service station set. The one that I did the article for in Classic Toy Trains, because that's probably one of the nicest sets that they ever did.
Can you, sorry, you were just gonna say, for folks that have never seen that set, can you explain like what makes it special and maybe the cars that were available in that set?
Yeah, okay. So what it was the reintroduction of the Hudson that was last seen in 1966. And also that the Hudson now was equipped with the new features of the time, the mighty sound of steam, and all the cars to the set had, for the most part, were based off of a previous post-war era car. and they were the full. There was no like 027 cars in it or anything, and it was a limited run set that they only made about a couple hundred of, and that they were sold for the Lionel service stations, the authorized ones only. So you could only get them at like hobby stores and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a really, really iconic set. Very, very cool piece.
And how many did they make?
Probably it was less than 1,000. So probably I don't have the production numbers on that one, but it's probably around like 800 or 900 were made.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. So
Which is pretty low for a traditional scale set. I mean, obviously, guys, since we all do scale as well, we know, things getting into like, we don't consider stuff really rare until it's like what? Into the two digits, like the 50s and the 75s. Like that's rare to us. But like traditional collecting, you're getting stuff in the, stuff down into the hundreds. It's pretty scarce to find.
Looking to expand your collection? Check out Trainz.com. Trainz is your go-to place for new and used model railroad products. They have everything ranging from engines, rolling stock, parts, track, and scenery. If you need it, they probably have it. With new discounts being added daily, you'll be sure to find something you like. Plus, Trainz offers a newsletter which keeps you up to date on new items, discounts, and upcoming promotions. We've been using Trainz for years, and we highly recommend their stellar service. What's really cool is you can also collect points by buying Trainz and using them on future purchases. With their awesome rewards program, you can earn points on every purchase that you can use for future discounts. Dedicated modelers can also join their private card membership to get exclusive access to new listings, earn 5 points per dollar spent, and unlock great benefits like no questions asked returns. Trainz not only sells Trainz, but also buys them too. If you got a large collection or are interested in downsizing and making some cash, you can head on over to sellmytrainz.com. It doesn't get easier than that. You can find them using our affiliate link, www.trainz.com/MMOP, or if you want to use our one-time promo code MMOP, you can get $10 off a single purchase on the Trainz.com website. So check out Trainz.com and start expanding your collection today.
Yeah, it's a really, really, really cool set. The fact that it is very like post-war inspired, that's a big trend through all of this like MPC era stuff. Because Brendon, you want to give us our little you have to make your point here. All right, we have to educate the listeners. Now, everybody, in your opinion, says MPC. It's the wrong era. What is MPC when you talk about true MPC?
It's only 1970 through 72. And then in 73, it switches over to Fun Dimensions.
All right, you heard that, folks. You get that wrong again, and we're going to find you. So you are educated now. Listeners. Don't you get it wrong again, because I will know. He will know. He every time someone says it incorrectly, he bolts upward in bed, sweating, writing another name in his book of who's next. But yeah, so the MPC collecting, it's interesting overall because, like I said, it's kind of this like weird blending of like it's the last gasp of like post-war technology. Seeing it, didn't they change the way that the things were made after that?
Yes, with the plastic.
Yeah, so it's like the last time we really get some of these crossover pieces. And are you starting to see like people are becoming more interested in it? Like, is it starting to get some new traction? Because, like, again, that's the whole theme of this thing overall. Like, are you starting to see your specific line of collecting with traditional? Is it starting to see like a new found love for it, or has it always been well known to the people like you who collect it?
That it's always been well known. Because I have stuff from people who were collecting it brand new when it first came out, and I think there is some resurgence in it because all the people who helped write the books and everything, that I've been told by those collectors, oh, you're making us look over this stuff again and seeing if we missed anything. And sure enough, that with a different perspective, that we found out there's more stuff out there, which is always so much fun.
There's always more stuff to learn. Yeah, it's like anything else in this hobby. There's like there's a ton of info out there on these things. It's just actually doing the legwork and compiling it and just finding these pieces. But yeah, it is cool because we don't really get I mean, you guys know this. We don't really get like variations and stuff anymore with these modern ones. It's really comes down to like the new thing I'm always saying, and we know this, guys, is like custom runs are the new collectibles in the modern era, because there's the scarcity factor, there's the limited availability, and whether or not there's also sometimes the gamble of whether it's going to come out looking right. Don't we know that, Matt Z and Brendon too, about the a certain
Yeah,
locomotive?
yeah, I
don't think
know about that.
we're not
Mm.
going to name drop, but
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
oh my god. The photos we sent photos.
Honestly,
We're not gonna, but yes, so we can get into our scale collecting in a bit here. But yeah, it is cool how like this. The one thing that's neat about the '70s is that with the traditional collecting and like the real railroads, Brennan, you've always kind of said that there's this parallel between how Lionel, kind of had a rebirth at the same time that the railroads were doing this rebranding and modernizing. Can you want to tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that?
Okay, well, as you guys know, that back in the 50s when the interstates, started becoming were built and people were using them more, that they started driving cars and everything like that. And so the trains, the passenger trains and everything started to dwindle. And at that same time, in the 60s, that slot cars were becoming more popular as a toy than the trains were. And Lionel, actually did it to themselves when they made the first commercial electric car set.
Yeah, the
back
first
in the
slot cars, right? Yeah, they literally invented the thing that killed them.
yes, yes, they did. And so by the time, so like 1959 was like the last. I heard 59 was the last year they were able to make a profit, and that year, in my opinion, was a good year when they made that general set, and that was like the last real whole thing that they made in the post-war era, other than those kind of gimmicky rolling stock stuff. And that by the time the 60s rolled around, that Lionel decided that it was going to get back into the government contracts with, the new war, the Vietnam War. And so they were using the military contract profits to kind of prop up their train line, which was faltering. And at that time, they didn't really want to do the trains anymore in the 60s. And so then that's when they reintroduced their slot car line, but making it more modernized than what they made like 50 years prior. And by 1968, Lionel completely wanted to sell the trains off, and that's when General Mills was interested in buying the trains, because that they did an interview where they had a nice 50 set and a cheaper 60 set, and no one could tell the difference. They just knew since it was Lionel, it meant it was quality. So they knew that as long as they made it better than what it was at the tail end, then they were good.
Yeah, it wasn't a super high bar that they set previously, was it?
Yes. And so in 67, Lionel acquired American Flyer to put them out of business, but they wouldn't relaunch it until the 70s. And that then they had that whole Hagerstown thing too. And in April of 69, that's when General Mills bought Lionel. And that's when they were still operating out of Hillside, and Hillside remained open for some production in the parts department until 1975. So, but yes. And
Yeah.
during... Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, sorry, go
you
ahead.
can... No, you could go. You can ask me a question or something.
No, I was gonna say it's just cool how like again the and the stuff that they brought in was all like they tried to make it all new and fresh, and actually start doing railroads that were the
Contemporary.
exact same,
Yeah.
yeah, the exact same kind of thing. It's like let's model stuff that people want to see now.
The post-war era in the 60s never ventured into more contemporary stuff. They just rested on what they already have done. And so when General Mills took over, then that's when you started getting a lot of, the Penn Central stuff, which was brand new for Lionel at the time. And the Burlington Northern, which the merger just happened that year in 70. So those were new things that they were injecting that you could get. So, and it was a serial company doing that too. It wasn't like a single person.
Yeah, and then you got like later on, with like Richard Kuhn and everything. I mean, he was like, you kind of said he was like the new Josh Cowan in a way. Like it was, they carried it through for him.
Yes. Because with the General Mills, they had people work in teams and stuff like that to design, but it really wasn't under one leadership at that point because it fluctuated a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, the combinations and the mergers and everything were exactly, again, sort of like the real Trainz. Like they were combining things together. They were merging different companies to kind of like make this all work a lot better than it had been when it was just people disinterested in it and everything. But yeah, so yeah, the marketing stuff too that they did was like way more than anything almost. It was kind of reminiscent of stuff they did in the 40s with like Joe DiMaggio and some of the other celebrity endorsements with what did they do? What do they work on in the 70s with all that?
What? Okay. So it was decided that they were going to do Super Bowl commercials. They were going to do new TV commercials. And they even had Johnny Cash perform a new Lionel song for the TV shows, of course, which they made catchy. So you couldn't go anywhere, watch TV or anything without being inundated with Lionel commercials.
And which Johnny and all of us are Tom McComas enjoyers. I mean, we've seen these almost ad infinitum on their films, have we not?
Yeah, for sure. The Johnny Cash commercials are very nostalgic to me too. I mean, it's one of those things where as a kid on the early days of YouTube, you'd watch, Lionel commercial, and you're bound to see a gazillion Johnny Cash commercials when you're watching those. So I definitely can see the appeal and how that was driven into people's minds of, yeah, Lionel Trainz, Johnny Cash.
Oh yeah, I remember kind of watching some of those on like the old videos and stuff, and it was always really cool to look at all that.
Absolutely. Yeah, the stuff that they did, he's such an iconic like 70s figure just in general. But one thing I'm really like enjoying now is that we're going into scale now a bit. Like we're seeing a lot of new stuff from at least like Lionel is the main one I'm noticing, but also Atlas and MTH. We're seeing a lot of new appreciation for some of the weirder stuff that's coming out. I mean, especially, didn't Atlas literally just release the new E8s and some of the car sets that are like very 70s focused, a lot of Penn Central?
I was just watching one of the Johnny Cash commercials right
now. Oh my God.
They did the what was it, the E8s with all the mismatched cars and stuff.
Yes, I love that they're starting to do stuff like that now. We're moving away from this like old school, perfect consist into, mentality of all these trains into this better, more, in my opinion, I think it's much more realistic to get these like mix match consist. Again, huge shock from me that I would be into this sort of thing and be a proponent of it, but it very par for the course.
And I'll tell you, you look at some of these things, and to be honest, it almost is a sense of, well, everybody thinks, yeah, your train that is all the same car and all put together. Well, that was very rare, like for a publicity thing, like a couple day run. But once everything got split up, the mismatched cars, different paint schemes, different car styles, that was what was ran. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's nice for being able to like model this variety now. You're getting all this weird kind of like just different stuff. And hopefully we're starting to see again some like, again, things that haven't really been appreciated. Like Johnny, Brendon, you guys know this, looking for the, in scale modeling, looking for the, the Southern Pacific cars with the red stripe on them. How hard are those to find?
Can't find them.
I don't think they made like the 21-inch ones at all.
Yeah, with the sunset and the silver and
Mm.
red SP cars, if you're
Mhm.
going for scale, you can get the Lionel set that they made because they made those in aluminum. But I'm not sure. I think those might be 18s. I'm not sure if those are 21s.
I think they are 18s. Yeah.
Yeah, that's only your most readily available option outside of Golden Gate Depot, and you can like get Phoenix model ones too. I know Jason got me one of those. Um, it's just it's languishing without trucks right now, but it's
What? No
it's a
way.
very overlooked era of modeling because that's when, like I said before, that's when all the pretty daylight colors and the lark colors that was all gone. SP went, yeah, full somber silver, red, scarlet. That's what we're going for.
Oh, your Sunset Limited there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Very hard era to model, but like you said, John, like you've seen a lot of like the Conrail sets or the Penn Central sets. Those have been really popular now, and it's just because it's almost it's because it's underappreciated. We've seen Pennsylvania modeled to death everywhere. New York Central, the whole shebang. Penn Central is kind of that like, ooh, that taboo era. We don't talk about that because that's when the glory days
It
went
is.
down.
Yeah, it is taboo. It's almost a little like it's almost a little dirty. It's like, ooh, the 70s. It's kind of like, oh, geez, we're being naughty. We're not modeling good stuff.
Exactly. It's like, but it's case like, oh yeah, your train's rocking about the place because you're using scale tracks. I joke if you're using scale tracks, it's but it's like, oh, your tracks rocking all over the place. Oh, you're modeling Penn Central, and I think it's to the point where so at least for the younger generation, enough people have joked about it to the point where they're like, well, why not model Penn Central? That'd be fun.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you I don't know. You even think of something like this, where you can't have a podcast on this without talking about subways. Talking about 70s. You're look at like in New York City. Your graffiti and crime and things that were really bad. For the whole demeanor of the whole city changed when all that happened, and to have a models of those is maybe something that people they think, oh, it's cool, but it's like, no, that was real. You know what I mean? And much like with your Penn Centrals and your Conrails and stuff like that, it's always really cool to, like I said, kind of see things that were accurate. Look at uh, Lionel doing like your Penn Central diesels. It's 4 different units. All of them are accurate. That's what a Consist would have looked like. In the mid 70s, which I think is just so cool.
Yeah, you can literally like there's so many weird options. You can have because I mean, let's be honest, you can only model something accurately so many times before, like the same paint scheme. Like, not to go Johnny's gonna hate this, not to hate on Penzi again, but just like how many times can you make, a Tuscan, like a Tuscan shark before you've made too many of them? You can literally
One time.
Yeah, exactly. You can make you could do like weird like panel swapping and stuff with like the what are the E8s that RJ always wants? The like the day one set that has like the plated seaboard unit on the rear, stuff like that. Like there's so many strange engines you can model with the scale stuff and like the rainbow era. You can literally build your own concepts. I mean, Brendon, you've been doing that, right, with your Amtrak set?
Yes, and I think it looks nice all together when we had it all out for the first time, and everything didn't match, but matched at the same time.
Exactly. There's literally no wrong way to do it. There's no you can't prove it didn't happen.
That is true. Oh, but there is one thing I would like to bring up though.
Sure.
With the scale stuff is Lionel's interesting move to make that Kitty City trailer, the trailer on the flat car.
Absolutely. I think that was an almost it had to not have been a coincidence that they did it right after MTH made the Toys R Us flat car in their it was only a few months apart, I think, that they announced those. So yeah, it's cool. Again, it's cool to see Lionel exploring, these different eras. And like I said, that's one of their first times they've acknowledged in like a quote unquote heritage piece that era of their models. I mean, I know it's modeling a real thing, obviously, but like it's also a double whammy because you're getting like a bit of Lionel heritage. Because I mean, let's be honest, guys. I mean, how often do we see Lionel like acknowledge that era, like in their, because they do like the post-war celebration and like the scale post-war stuff. They've never really done anything as an homage to that era, have they?
Yeah, not that I can really think of. It's kind of like like I said, it's one of those things where we don't talk about that era because it wasn't our golden age like the post-war days were. There's so much to be appreciated, but I think it's because there's so much media out there that kind of condemns it almost to a degree,
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of people miss it. I know I certainly have. If it wasn't for you guys, I would have completely, or you guys or Chris, I would never have even considered looking into it. And I think that exposure is really great, though.
Oh, definitely. There's so many like just good pieces that were made back then that weren't done. I mean, like the Blue Comet. Like I know that's a little bit later. That's what, Brendon, 80s, late 70s. When did they do the Comet?
78.
Yeah. See, like they never. Why did they never do a traditional scale Blue Comet in the post-war era? It's insane. They never made one. It would have been so easy to do. They were making the freaking girls set. It's just like all these great things they could have been doing. That they General Mills did in the 70s and 80s. It's like it's a no-brainer. And I think one of the things I think with both the scale stuff and the traditional stuff is that like kind of we've moved past the era where people were kind of like remembering grew up with those being the new thing. Same thing with the real railroads, the way we kind of look back at them. We can look at them more objectively now than subjectively because it's all in the past now. So it's all sort of being pulled from the same bucket. So you can you're not being, because you don't really recognize things in the moment until they're in the past. There's probably a term for that. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But like you don't realize that stuff looks dated until it's not around every day. Like looking at pictures of the 2000s now, as much as it hurts me, things look dated now, but they didn't when we were kids. So it's kind of that thing. We can look at it like and say, well, this is interesting to me. I wasn't around then, but it's like, I wasn't around for Steam either. So you can kind of look at it and pick and choose these interesting things like, oh, that interests me. Even if it's not like the glory days of everything, that interests me. Like how like Burnsy and I always like foaming over all the awful anthracite stuff because, like all the Mike Bednar films, because, not only he's from that era, but it's interesting stuff. It's cool to see these different like eras. So there's a lot more to like, and I think people too, again, they're kind of tired of the same old, like just like with the post-war era, they were tired of the same old. It's the same thing with scale now. Like the, also with the F units that Lionel just brought out, didn't they do like the blue bonnets from the Santa Fe blue bonnets from the 70s? Wasn't that one that they just did?
I believe so. Those are a very polarizing paint scheme, I think, at least the way that was executed.
Yeah, that one. What about the yellow bonnets? While we're on the topic of Santa Fe, what era was that?
That's a Matt R question. I feel like.
That was give it to us.
Yeah, that's 1970s.
70s? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
That was around the merger. Around the Amtrak merger, when Amtrak was picking up all the passenger lines, Santa Fe started doing yellow paint.
Didn't they have like didn't they? We also got to keep in mind that was also. Didn't they house a bicentennial baggage car and stuff they ring around as a steam generator car during that era for Santa Fe?
I believe you are correct, but I don't know the exact timing on that.
No, I definitely remember seeing that. I think that's actually okay. Huge nerd moment. Again, gigantic surprise. I'm literally looking over on my bookshelf at my Santa Fe Odyssey DVDs, not sponsored by Green Frog, but that's a fantastic DVD set. I literally think there's a scene in there of the yellow bonnet diesels pulling one of the passenger trains with that baggage car in the consist. Not even kidding.
That is the exact scene I am thinking of, John.
Is that what you're thinking of too? Oh
That's
my
what
gosh.
I was thinking of, yeah.
1972 is when they had the blue and yellow bonnet.
There we go.
Yeah, and the large yellow road name. So yeah, it was early 1970s.
Which you got a pair of for your layout when you were out hanging out with us, weren't you, Madar?
I did at that shop near you, which obviously I won't say the name due to privacy issues unless it's okay. But yeah, and I love those. I had those when I was in O scale. I had a nice set of ABAs from MTH, which I really loved, which had the silver trucks. And I'm just picking on Lionel. That's all. I do like the ones from the recent ones from Lionel, the yellow bonnets. Not a huge fan of the black trucks on those. They did in fact have black trucks, like that is prototypical as well, both silver and black trucks. But I'm a fan of the silver trucks because I prefer to run those as a passenger train and not a freight, although they did run both. But I ended up getting an AB yellow bonnet set, and they're really, really nice. I love them. I really enjoy the yellow bonnet scheme, not just on F7s. Like I like it, that yellow and blue on freight stuff and GP40s and other Santa Fe diesels as well. Want to support your favorite O-Scale podcast and rock some awesome merch? Well, now you can. We've teamed up with Redbubble.com and have come up with a great selection of gear that you can get right now. They have everything from shirts, hoodies, stickers, mugs, bags, you name it. Heck, you could even get a wall clock with us on it. All this great stuff and more at Redbubble.com. Links are down in the show notes, so grab yourself some gear and rock some awesome podcast merch.
Yes, Johnny has been indoctrinated into the modern, quote-unquote, modern Santa Fe era with his new latest project there. Johnny, you want to plug that real quick?
Oh, my gosh. So I grabbed these engines that look like they were out of a house fire. They weren't, but they were weathered to the point where they were just charred black from Matt R. As those were, I don't know if you purchased those or you were just given them by Jason.
I don't even remember.
If you purchased them, you did not pay much for them for sure.
No, I did not. No, lunch money is probably what they were.
Exactly. They were MTH Proto 2 3 volts, GP38-2s, and they were completely blackened. All the motors were gone, the pickups were gone, speaker was gone. It's literally just wheels, a frame, and a shell. And we were at Matt's house, and John, you and I were poking around at his remaining O-scale shelf of things that he just used to ship to Matt and Z. And we were looking at them like, man, those things are just weird looking because they're just so awful looking. And I remember that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try something. And I grabbed some alcohol wipes and I started wiping down the engine, and to my amazement, the weathering finally came off. You could actually see the blue and yellow paint scheme on it again. So that's become a very long project for me. And in fact, I just recently released a video on it of me restoring them from basically just junked engines to beautiful operating engines that are now something I run constantly. In fact, they're on the layout right now and are my leap into modeling Santa Fe of that era. In fact, it's borderline risking me into modeling the SPSF era. So we'll see where that leads me. Actually, that actually brings up a question I had. I don't know if this is a 70s item that Lionel released. So I had one very briefly, but I actually sold it off to one of my local hobby shops. What are they called? The Southern Pacific, was it U36s that they did back in that era? The red and the yellow scheme? Is that supposed to be reminiscent of the SPNSF paint scheme, or is that actually a paint scheme they had on an engine? I can't remember.
Well, okay. That set came out in let's see, I believe it was 79. So I don't know when that paint scheme was. What, around that time?
I believe so, because I'm trying to look up photos of it, but I can only find photos of the model.
Yeah,
really?
That's a common problem I have too when searching stuff. It's just, no, I want prototype photos, not more of the same thing I'm already looking at to see if it's real.
I could have sworn that has to have been a real thing, but I remember it bugged the living daylights of me. Daylight.
Oh God!
It annoyed me as a kid because we'd watch Tom McComas' stuff for I Love Toy Trains. They're like, this is the striking paint scheme of the Southern Pacific, and kid me being like, yeah, that's the Daylight or Black Widow, and they show that paint scheme. Like, that's not Southern Pacific.
I pictured young Johnny all mad.
That's not the color scheme I know. But that's a very interesting. That's a really cool set. Do you have any context on the history of that set or anything about that?
Yeah, that set, I believe, with the product number is 1970, ironically,
Oh wow.
and that it came out. I believe it came out in 79, and it was one of the higher end, like what do you want to call them, train packs from that time period.
Technically, if it doesn't have track and a transformer, it's a pack, not a set.
Yes, and that people went crazy for those diesels, and people started buying those sets up like you wouldn't believe. And it was a limited collector series, which means that they didn't make, in the traditional era, a whole lot of them. So just keep that in mind. And the huge point, other than the diesels, was that it was the reintroduction of the Fort Knox car from the post-war era. So that people went crazy for that too. I don't know why the Fort Knox car was there, but it was. And that I do believe that they had, because how the sets work and how they come up with the paint schemes, is that they actually reach out to like the real railroads and say, hey, can you send us something that we can make? And then they get some sort of correspondence back and forth from the railroads into Lionel. And then they kind of agree on what the product's going to look like. So therefore, that they probably had some sort of mock-ups or pictures or whatever to see what it would look like. Because I do have some records of other things where they reached out to companies and like, we want to make this, can you send us pictures? And the company sent them pictures. So they had some sort of reference point when they made that set.
It's a very cool set. I do like. This is just me being a big SP fan, as I've already demonstrated this entire episode. But I do really like the fact that the bay window caboose is in the style of the overnight boxcar. That's something, because you get inundated with all these, brown boxcar, brown bay window caboose, brown this. So the fact that it's such a flashy set, you got these bright yellow and red diesels and all these silver cars. It's very, very eye-catching for the time.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite sets, and I actually don't have that one. So, but my favorite is the Wrath car with the Native American on it. I think that the logo is very cool. I think it's perfect for a traditional type of car. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they ever made them in scale or not. I'm unsure about that.
K-Line has, I believe, they've done that scheme. I don't think Lionel has ever released a Wrath packing car. Might be a good candidate for a customer, and I'm probably going to get some collectors going, actually, they released it in the thing. I'm just projecting right now, obviously. But I'm the last person I would have suspected, but I was looking for me all the time. But yeah, I think K-Line has done those a few times. But yeah, I have not. That set is yeah, you're a blasphemer, Brendon. We need to get you some more of those 80s sets, because those are some good sets in there that they came up with.
I want the crazy one, other than the Black Cave flyer.
No more videos on that.
That when they did the it's technically LTI era, but it was like carryover General Mills production. That stupid set that they did, which is not really stupid, it's really nice, but it makes no sense. That Boston Albany Hudson with all the modern era freight cars.
Oh God, I hate that set. I hate that set so much. I'm literally wincing physically. You can't see this, listeners, but just it makes me so mad. They're all happy promoting it in their catalog. Look at our Hudson really cars. It's all freaking ACF hoppers and railguns and stuff.
It wasn't in the catalog.
You know what I mean. The leaflet thing. They showed it off. They know what they did. They posted photos of it. It was meant to be a set.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's so bad.
I don't know why, but it was. So.
Also, when you literally having lived through the modern era now, and not to bring this up again because we've all beaten it to death in our community. We've discussing it, but when you, Brendon, when you started talking about Lionel reaching out to railroads about colors and correctness, I literally heard it in my head and started having like the Huey helicopters flashback and just like colors from the railroads, just like the guns go PTSD from dealing.
You heard some CCR, yeah, okay.
Dealing with yes, heard CCR in the background. Just oh god, dealing with the colors nowadays, just colors reaching out to the railroads, just gave me like PTSD. Oh god, but the because we don't know anything about them having issues nowadays. Did they? Okay, did they actually have lots of problems with getting things wrong back then? Because I literally, Brendon, I know you and I obviously have talked a lot about this. Did they ever have problems with like collectors being mad that they weren't getting colors right from the railroads back then, or was this not a problem?
You know what they said? You said you're lucky you get this, and because the issue with the colors is because in the modern era that you only have predominantly only one production run, so that means that everything should, in theory, be the same. But back then, they did multiple production runs, and the different production runs is where the variations appeared.
I feel like people just weren't as like worried about that too back then.
No, because they really weren't, because the market, see, the scale market was emerging. General Mills knew it was emerging. However, it just never hit its peak just at that time period, where most of the people bought them probably just bought them for their kid, or if they were a fan of Lionel throughout their life, they probably just bought whatever and didn't even question it.
Yeah, exactly. People are like, this is a toy, we're not, it was more, it seemed more like they were like, really, they wanted like things to like, one thing I've always heard is everybody wanted everything to match. Like the caboose always had to match the engine and this and that, that kind of stuff. People are like getting mad and over like the caboose was like too accurate to the real one and didn't match the engines in some fake scheme that never existed. Like, like for Santa Fe, like, I think there was like a time they released like, some really good Santa Fe diesels, and then they made a red bay window, which, will probably look pretty accurate. And then people are like, no, the caboose needs to be blue and, blue and yellow too. It's like, really? I don't know.
And they made it. Yeah, they caved in.
Yep. I like
that. Yeah, that was the whole thing.
I like that you're lucky to get anything.
Because that's what they thought.
Like, yeah. Oh, man, it's like, yeah, come on, people, don't be. I mean, we want things to be accurate, but at the same time, I don't know.
But see, sorry, not to cut anyone off, but the scale market they knew about as early as the 1960s, and that General Mills at the time couldn't produce scale models due to the business aspect. So that's why they started out with the lower, the department store type stuff and the starter sets, because they knew they could sell more of those, build up the capital, and then work their way up to the point where they could afford, to use tooling and everything. And that's when they got into like the, like it or hate it, but the standard O from the Pola molds and everything. That's because they knew that the train market was shifting from just toys into a more collector-focused, fan base.
Yeah, and then you got the weird stuff where like people were demanding that, the scale diesels still have pull more motors, and they're like 8 scale feet wide, on the like those Dash 8s from like the 90s and stuff that like even I remember, seeing those in videos and stuff, and those are just. It's like, oh no.
Those were the post-war people who didn't want to believe the post-war era died.
I gotta ask, So especially since I got to kind of see it here when John was picking up. So the set that I recently sent out to you guys, it's on its way as we speak. That was that the cross country set, or is that a different set I'm thinking of?
No, that was the cross country set. The first one, not the second one.
So what makes that particular one that you got so unique, if you don't mind me asking? Because I know nothing about it.
Okay. Well, basically, that set was the most expensive cataloged set from 71 and 72. So the further up you go, the less they make. And that's the 72 version. And the set that was special is because of one car in the whole thing. And that was the L&N. It's a white box that says L&N with load, but that car is supposed to be a dozer and scraper kit. However, that box can't fit both of the construction vehicles in it. And I was talking to the other MPC collectors, and they're like, oh, well, we know of like 5 boxes existing, and they're all empty. And then I have a box where it's scratched out and there's a cattle car in there. So it was a mystery until John just happened to come across that set that just happened to have that variation of that flat car in there, where we discovered where, yes, it only had one tractor in there, completing a mystery decades in the making.
That's so cool, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually even happier to see that it's making its way over to you. Then that's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
The other,
so that's why.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brendon. I was going to say that you want to touch on the geographic fact that even I didn't know about like why I probably found that set where I found it.
Yeah, that General Mills, that they like to at the time, they knew some sets with some road names would sell better regionally, so different regions got, predominantly more sets than others because they knew that they would sell better. That's why the Illinois Central you found up your way, and that's why I can't find it down my way. But I'm full loaded with Pennsylvania stuff and things like that, because they understood different people would be interested in their local regions.
That's pretty cool, and that's a pretty beefy set too for what's included in there. Just looking at the box art alone, like when I was packing it up, I was just the box art of that era, and even the catalog art too. It's very, I don't know how to describe it, but the art is beautiful on that. Just the giant skyline in the background and this long stretching freight train. It's almost comic book esque, if that makes any sense.
You said the secret word, Johnny. No, Brendon, not a comic book podcast. Down.
I know. But see that artwork's only 70 through 72. So no, I'm just joking. But yeah, that all the 70 through 72 sets, except one 73 set that has a leftover lid, but we're not going to get into that. They all have that kind of artwork to them, and that's one of the reasons why I like that era, is because even though you may not be interested in it, the artwork alone makes you want to look at it. And so I think they really knocked it out of the park with that kind of stuff, as far as the design aspect goes for their packaging.
For sure. Matt, are we going to say something there?
I'm ready to talk about comics.
Oh boy! Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, please. I'm just kidding. Please divulge.
I know.
I'll joke. Earth 1 or Earth 2 for pre-crisis.
I was a huge, not to go off the rails here, obviously, but just to give a little reference, in the 90s, huge comic book collector. They relaunched a lot of old series. Todd McFarlane obviously did a lot of art in the 90s. So I had the Spider-Man. I still have them in a box. Like, I still have a lot of comics. I read older comics too when I pick them up and every now and then. But the 90s is really where I kind of went off the rails with comics.
Oh, okay. That's cool. That my comic book collection's pretty much just like 40s into the 80s. But I do have some 90s stuff.
Gotcha.
Kind of circling back to Trainz here before we go
Sorry,
too far.
that was my
rails.
fault.
No, you're fine. That's perfectly fine. I do like how the art style is very for at least just kind of like a surface level, just going through here in Google Images. The art style is you take the actual train, not like they don't try to make it hyper realistic, like super scale detail. It is still very much a stylized version of the set, but they put them in these environments where the train seems so big and hulking and massive, and it makes you it almost does some of the imagination for you. It makes you want to play with the set and pretend like you are there in the scene, which I think is really lacking in some of the stuff you see today. You know, you remember a lot of us, you know, those of us who grew up around like the 2000s and such, you know, the sets with the CW80s and stuff like that, like the Great Western Train set. You had these great backgrounds behind it. But unfortunately nowadays, with, you know, not to bash the folks that I know, they do a great job. But a lot of the train sets, you know, it's like, oh, here's a window looking at the train, and it just has our basic Lionel packaging on it. There's really no allure. Some of the commercials nowadays have that stuff from that too. You saw a toy commercial from that era, you know, or up to like the 2000s, you know. Oh, this is this Hot Wheel set, or this cool thing. It can do this and this, and you too can be in that scenario. You can imagine this on your living room floor, and it's that allure, that magic that give to that set. And that's what I think that artwork encapsulates. And you just don't have something like that anymore. It's just, you know, a lot of the promo stuff now is just, here's the set running on our demo layout, and here it is on the floor, and we say a couple things, and that's that. I think a lot of that magic is just missing, you know, of just helping you to use your imagination to immerse yourself in that scene.
Johnny, that's a fantastic point. The cool thing, I've got several things that you brought up I want to touch on there. For one thing, the style of the artwork, if you look at like industrial artwork from that era, like stuff literally like General Motors and EMD were putting out of their locomotives, like it's literally exactly the same style. So they were hiring people. They knew exactly what they were doing with those images. If you look at like, there's a really well-known one. You might even be able to look it up. There's several New York Central ads where they were EMD was promoting. I think it was the GB30. Like if you look at those paintings, they're exactly like those Lionel boxes. Like down to the colors they use and everything. And like you said, I love the subject matter in those paintings. Like, my favorite is the pacemaker set that has a New York Central freight going through like Monument Valley in Arizona. It's like, it doesn't matter that it's completely ridiculous. It's just so fun. It just evokes that, like, again, like you said, that I want to play with that. I want some of that. Like, you know, I need to experience that. It really gets you excited for. I mean, like I said, I remember watching, you know, Hot Wheels commercials and just commercials that were so over the top. Even in the 2000s, like, yeah, like, you can be this guy playing with this. Your boring life can be injected with fun if you buy this thing. Yeah, I love that, like, that mentality too. The other cool thing that Brendon pointed out to me is on those boxes, they never technically lie to you about the train, because the steam engines that have smoke and light will have it in the painting, and if they don't have it, it won't be in the painting. Isn't that right, Brendon?
Yep, that's correct.
So if you look at some of the lower end sets, the steam engines will not have their lights on and will not be smoking in the painting.
Yeah, like the Wabash Cannonball.
Exactly. I thought that, like, little things like that, you never, like, it's in plain sight and you don't even realize it. I love stuff like that.
I really like I'm not sure if this is one from that era. I'm going to assume so, because I just literally searched up Lionel 1970s train set. This came up. The Allegheny set is what I'm looking at right now, and the fact that it's this giant hulking steam locomotive on this bridge with the mountains behind it, and the engine is just in your face. You know, it is massive in this artwork. And then you look at the photo next to it, it's like, oh, it's just a 442. But just looking at the art, you're impressed by it. It's like, that's a steam locomotive. That's a huge freight. And it's so evocative of that time period. It's just so cool.
We did too get that a little bit, Johnny. Sorry, Brian. I'm sure you want to say something about the Allegheny set there real quick, but we did, like you said, Johnny, even up into the 2000s, we were getting those paintings on boxes. Like they were still making paintings for train sets. The ones that are the most iconic for me are the ones where like the train is at a really preposterous angle to the like the engine is coming around a traction like diameter curve, like a super tight curve. The engine is like perpendicular to the train behind it.
It's polar expressing itself.
Exactly that. But yeah, those like even up until then, and we do still kind of get like the imaging of the train, but yeah, it's definitely lost a little bit of the allure. It's just like, this is what you're getting because the people are like, you lied to me. You said I'd be getting that, but I really got this. It's like, no, you got to get that bigger than life picture of it. But yes, Brendon, please, Allegheny set.
Okay, what I was going to mention is that the Allegheny set actually has variations on the painting. You know where I'm going with this, John, right? With the Wheaties boxcar.
No, I don't know anything about this.
that there's an 1199. That's what the set's called, Ford set, and that was the first licensed set that General Mills did back in '71. And what happened was that it was supposed to be only for like I've seen them with like Napa store stickers on them, and there was some promotion where you bought like Ford kits, like tuner kits for your car and everything like that, and you got a set, and it was like a pretty much if you were a Ford person, you got the set was available to you, and then people. I don't know if I'm sure you have this, where there's like a rare car in the set, and then people try to separate it out and then try to scalp money for it. But what happened was that the set came out, and people were like, oh, it has the rare car, it has the rare car. And then General Mills was like, oh, it has the rare car? And then they just sold it separate sale. And so therefore it eliminated any scalpers. But so if you had the set had the complete box components and everything, that itself, the whole entity was the rare thing, not just that one piece out of the thing. And that's how they negated, people upcharging, when they buy something and try to flip it real fast. That's how they negated all that, because it happened back then too.
Oh, yeah, we don't see that at all in our modern stuff of new price.
Never.
No. The funny thing, and you got your Ford set from our old friend of the show, Mr. Sid, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And I'm very thankful for that, because that's actually a hard set to find.
I like how you worked on him over time on that set. You were just like, come on, I'm still here. Like he was like, I don't know if I sell it yet. And just slowly over time you wore him down.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to restore it, which he liked seeing.
Yes, and it's with its other friends from the other sets that from around its time period, so it's not all alone with them. I know he had some other sets from that time period, but
he does, yes.
But it's with its friends now.
That's right. He has visitation rights. He has joint custody. Oh my gosh. It's funny too, because we kind of see not exactly that, but nowadays we kind of see in the Lionel always likes to make they'll put the really popular engine into their sets, like any of the Penzi sets. If it's an engine that's at Strasbourg in the Railroad Museum, it's going to be in a set. Like if they're doing the I think literally every Penzi set that they've come out with recently has been the preserved engine. Am I wrong on that? Or Matt? That's a Matt Z question.
It's always the number that everybody wants. Like when they did the L1 set, they did 520, which is in Strasbourg. Which is obviously it's a cash grab. People want that engine, so they're gonna make it so they have to buy the cars to go with it. But, or like when they did the coal hauler set, they did 6755, or whatever the case may be. But I mean, even besides Penzi, you are very right. As a general rule for any set, that's definitely the way it goes. Is that the popular number is in a set with cars, so you have to buy the set to get that specific engine.
Yep. And actually, now I'm thinking actually a direct parallel to the car thing Brendon was talking about. The superset, the big boy, they put the first what was it? The first World War II poster boxcar. Like that was
Yes,
Yeah.
they
the
did.
only
Yes, they did.
place.
And dealers are breaking that up. I know Muffin broke up at least one set, but I'd probably to sell that one car, which
Exactly.
is unfortunate when you think about it, because it's like, well, you know, oh, it's great that people want the set, but you know, if they want every single car in a series, well, you have to buy the $4,000 train set.
That's right.
You know?
It is
Well,
pretty smart.
yeah, so it's like wanting people like for us collecting. It's like people who wanted the Legacy 2696 Berkshire that came with the Empire Builder set. That set got broken up left, right, and center. Well, because that included the Burke, like a bunch of cars, a 990 set, fast track school remote control switches, 072.
Oh
You know,
man.
the ironically the set sold for 26. Was it 2696? I think. But it's such an expensive set, but you never find the full set anymore, and if you do, you're paying ridiculous amounts of money for it, especially because of the rarity of the base 2 now. But it's crazy, how much just trying to find just the engine alone of that set is impossible at this point. They come up, but you're paying significant amounts of money for it.
I don't think I've ever seen a
Even
complete
then.
one, like ever. I've seen the other one, which is the water level set, but I don't think that one had a 990 with it, did it?
No, it's
That was
TMCC.
TMCC. It
Oh,
was
that's right. That
TMCC
was
Rail Suns
TMCC.
5.
Yep.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
same concept. It was
Yeah. Big super set.
superset, yeah. So of that era, which was really cool. But the even your Vision Line GS set, Johnny. Like I love that set. The whole set is fantastic, but the one car I love that I've been begging Lionel to do is a silver Vision Line PFE reefer. Well, again, you could break up the set to get that one car, or buy the entire set. And that's another set you don't see it coming for sale, or if you do, it's really expensive.
Yeah, for sure. Those Vision GSs, they go for a lot of money, and getting that in the set is impossible at this point. Like I saw maybe a couple of years back that Trainz had one for a while, but after that, I haven't seen one hit the market since then. Like people who had them are keeping them. Um, Heck, John, you and I have talked about this. For rarity's sake, you can't find the 50/50 GS anymore. The half daylight, half war baby one.
I've only ever seen one,
Oh, I
which
love
was at
that
that
one.
show. That's of all places, the Timonium show we went to. Remember that, Brennan's show? I showed you the half daylight GS.
Yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Oh God, that thing is so.
Or Ratchford, the BNSF GS that only one video exists. But I mean, at least you know it was made.
I've seen it on eBay like one time.
Yeah, me too. It was like $5,000 or something stupid.
$5,000.
Rochford's had enough to the point where he's like, "Screw it, I'm buying a Broadway lineage one."
Yeah,
now."
that's it.
But lots of cool. That's really cool though to hear about how Lionel tackled how they tackled the scalpers and such. That's really cool, and all the different variations that come with that.
Absolutely. The yeah, too. The just overall, it's funny that we think that the hobbies, everybody's always the hobby's changing, the hobby's evolving. Like it does, but it stays the same in a lot of ways too, which is kind of funny. Like if you look back and talk to people who were actually collecting back then. I mean, Brendon, you've talked to some pretty big heads, and actually, everybody here has some common ground. Both of you guys have talked with Mr. Joe Stackler before, have you not?
Yes, and I don't know if you guys are aware of the story of how he said he put the Easter egg thing. It messed with collectors for like 30 years, and so he did a joke on that kind of stuff. But what happened was that in 1971, for some reason, don't know why, they made this accessory that's pretty standard, the highway crossing with the flashing lights. In the 71 catalog, instead of using a real one, they composited two signals into one. and it was debated whether it was made or not because there was no record it actually was made. But here it is photographed in the catalog, which I think is just a composite of 2 photos, which they used a clear sheet with a printing on one over another one. And then Stackler in his Lionel 2000 video, he put one together himself.
Century of Lionel video, right?
Yes, he put one together himself, and then people were like, "It is real," which it's not. And so he said it was an MPC Easter egg, so he did it as a joke. But then there's still people trying to find that thing. And then then once he told me about it, then I got parts for it. And then John helps me create my own. So maybe we can still, even though it's not real, maybe we can still have people question it. I'm gonna
get into I'm gonna become a counterfeiter, start counterfeiting Lionel signals. I have to release them slowly so I don't flood the market, but I'm gonna start a ring, start a racket, get a thing going. Oh geez. Super rare look with 2 @ symbols for the O's.
There you go. That's how to do it.
Oh.
And you also say, "I know what I have."
That's right. I know what I've got.
Yes. No lowball offers.
No low balls. Wife bad. But that one's for Lou. Wife bad. But yes, and you've gotten to talk to some other cool people too. Mr. Roger Karp and Joe Algazzini, people who I'm sure anybody watching old TM videos would be familiar with. You get to talk with them on a pretty regular basis in your collecting circles, don't you?
Yes, and he's very knowledgeable because he's been collecting for almost 60 years at this point, and he's really one of them who pioneered the traditional Lionel collecting with the variations and everything, and how he did it back in the pre-internet days was very interesting. And so I tried to implement that myself because some things you just can't find information on the internet about. So that he talked about the old school method, and so hey, it's still relevant today.
Absolutely. Yeah. If don't reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
But yeah, so no, it's a really good thing that we still have people like you who are interested in continuing traditional scale collecting, because we all get wrapped up in how much we love the scale stuff, but it's important to remember, as I always say, we got to trace our roots back to the heritage, because without General Mills doing all their stuff, we wouldn't have probably any of the stuff we have now, and the hobby would be completely different if it wasn't for them just deciding to make that purchase, because no MTH didn't exist back then. You had Atlas was still making I think they might have been making some O scale stuff, but it was probably all kits and 2-rail. That's a Jason question, I'm sure. Do you guys know if Atlas was Atlas doing O back then? I don't remember.
I don't know. They may have done a thing or two, but I'm really not sure. But no, going on your point really quick was, you think, maybe everything happens for a reason is a good quote to use for this, but good saying rather. But if you think about it, without, fill in the blank, what we have now would not be possible. And I completely agree. It's like, I often think, sitting there around the call one time talking about this was, if MTH never went away with QSI and we still had Proto 1, or that style technology, who knows what would happen. If we never had Proto 2, would we have had Legacy or all these other new things that we have now? Who knows?
Looking for something different? Need a gift for a fellow rail fan? Well, folks, look no further. NPL Customs is your source for all railroading decor. Handcrafted, made in the USA, and veteran-owned. Their products made for rail fans, by rail fans. I personally have a set of coasters from them that I absolutely love. Find them on Etsy at NPL Customs and use code MMPodcast at checkout to save 10%. NPL Customs, quality since 2017. Yeah, would we even have our beloved Blue Nami now? Where would we be without that? I can't go back to thinking about the time before Blue Nami existed now.
I'm literally holding Blue Nami decoder in my hand right now, fidgeting.
Of course you are. It's the great equalizer of all things. We need to, Brendon. We need to put Blue Nami into. We still need to do the legacy 8040 Columbia.
8040, yes. That would be hilarious.
Cheapest engine that was ever made in the 70s, with
four chuffs, of course, right?
Yes, of course, four chuffs. Fan-driven
Speaking
smoke.
Speaking of customizing on that topic, I know this is LTI era, but that near Central K-Class, John.
K-Class. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, weirdly how, again, with Lionel, they'll make complete fantasy things, and then they'll make one thing that's so ridiculously close to a prototype by accident. For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, you know the engine that literally everybody owns from Lionel, not the turbine, but it's the one that kind of it has the big Mr. Incredible Crimson Shin style air pumps on the front, the big shield that sticks out like a big chin there. That engine is actually really very closely based on a New York Central Pacific. That I think there were literally 5 in the class. Again, so Lionel, just the typical thing where, and this is something else we always goof on, Brendon, is Lionel loves making things that were not successful in real life, or that there were 1 or 2 of, and making them into mass production products, like post-war era, the freaking turbine, one existed in real life. It was awful. It didn't work right. Lionel made hundreds of thousands of them. And same thing with Penn Central. I mean, Penn Central was already bankrupt when Lionel was making it in the MPC era.
Yeah.
And it was one of their biggest sellers, wasn't it?
They kept coming back to it. They made 4 different Penn Central cars from 70 to 72.
Yep. GG1, everything.
Yeah, that was in 78. Mm-hmm. But not to mention the Mini Max. I think that's the weird piece.
Oh yeah, that freaking weird little thing that does, which all the future 2-axle cars Lionel made are based off of. The weird little boxcar thing.
Which was real, but hey, they should make a scale one. That would be interesting.
I think it probably is scale. The model probably just by accident is scale. But yeah, Lionel, just the fun, goofy, happy accident stuff like that Lionel has done over the years is it's just part of the charm. But yeah, I think. What do you think, guys? Any other topics we want to discuss here? Or should we start? You guys want to start wrapping things up? Because I definitely have one other thing I want to discuss before we end things here.
I think we can touch base on that before we wrap up for the night. I think we've gone for quite a while already.
We have.
I agree. Yeah, let's touch up on your last question, and we can start closing it out.
So my question to each of you is, and you can just respond as you see fit. What is one thing that you guys kind of want to see now that we are exploring this new era of just not, doesn't even have to be 70s, but just this new, more interesting, diversified kind of railroad mindset. It can either be traditional or full scale. Probably more scale in this sense. What do you guys want to see made? What do you really want to see made that's very weird, kind of mismatched, kind of off the beaten path, but even that kind of taboo area? What do you guys want to see? Brendon, you first.
Okay. Well, you know what I'm going to say, right?
No, not at all.
I think they should do a MPC celebration series, with the Illinois Central Jeep, the 8030, and have it a scale. And maybe even do a modern version of the cross-country set with all scale cars and see how it would look 50 years apart from each other.
I think that would be a great thing to do. Again, the post-war scale stuff, where they were doing the F units and the boxcars and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. And it would be pretty close. I mean, it would be close to the real ones, too, because they did look like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I don't know if they'll do it or not, but I think that'll be a cool idea.
Lionel, there you go. There's your you listen to this stuff. There's your pitch there. Free idea right there. Go do it. Matt R., what about you?
Yeah, so I'm thinking they do another run, and maybe this is kind of stealing a bit of Brendon's, but post-war celebration sets, like just kind of more of those. I actually owned the Santa Fe one because they did these back in the 2000
Yeah, I think they
era?
went into the 2000s.
Yeah, 2000, like between 2002 and 2008 or something like that. They did a bunch of those post-war celebrations. But do a post-war celebration, but put modern electronics in it. And I don't know, maybe that's taboo, but I don't know. I think that would be really, really cool.
Oh, I think
it'll be cool.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, Menor, let's give some HO love as well too. I am just curious of this. Like, can you find like 70s and just like kind of weird stuff a bit more easily in HO? Because like I really don't know what's available. Like, what can you find in HO?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like, in fact, I just received a small amount of Trainz and rolling stock and a couple engines from a family member who was cleaning out a garage, and they're and I actually have a G scale set in there too. I have a Chicago Northwestern G scale set in there too. Ooh. So I'm still evaluating things. They may be up for sale, maybe not. I don't know. I'm looking at it. But to answer your question, yes, you can definitely find, and they made just some really, if you think Lionel made like interesting things, man, HO just made like, I mean, you name the food item, it's probably an HO train for it, right? Like Campbell's soup train, Hostess cupcake train. I don't know if there's actually that train, but I'm being a little bit facetious, but
it should be.
They just, yeah, it should be right.
Black licorice train.
A black licorice train.
Yes, anchovy train.
Yeah, those should crash into the canyon.
Yes, absolutely.
No, they made some really cool stuff, and I think I see those more when I go to like the Wheaton Train Show, and you're looking around and you see the there's folks' table, and obviously he's not O scale, he's got a lot of older HO stuff, and there's just like really interesting things, and not just engines, but just like rolling stock as well. They kind of like kind of went haywire there in the 70s and 80s with HO. It was a good era for HO too as well. But yeah, I can't think of anything offhand for HO that obviously I could see them remake, just because there's already like a plethora of stuff out there.
Yeah, you're pretty good so far, right? Like they've made, there's really nothing that they haven't touched on yet, is there?
No, not really. Like, and the thing is, if you can't find it like from a normal run, most people are like, well, they made that in brass. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm
not buying brass, but if I want to buy brass, I'll go back and into O scale, where I'm spending thousands of dollars for engines.
Exactly.
So, no thanks.
That 2-rail show. Oh god.
Yeah.
The pain.
There was, in fact, just a really quick story too. There was a lady at the Wheaton Train Show this past Sunday, and she had a good stack of brass HO trains. And they had she had a couple of the circus trains. I think it was it was a Burke or I think it was a Berkshire, a couple of Berkshires. And they weren't like, I opened them up, they weren't really decorated like the circus, but apparently it pulled like, the Barnum and Bailey like circus train. It was pretty, and she wasn't really asking for all that much either. Her pricing was pretty good. I wasn't, I'm kind of getting at the cap of like my engines now. I'm trying to focus on like actually putting money into the layout and less on buying.
That's the problem I always have. I always buy just engines, and then I'm like, well, great, now I need like 8 train sets to go with these.
Exactly.
Cars are on them.
Exactly. I'm bad at that too. Like if I buy an engine, I'm like, all right, I gotta buy the full passenger set, or this will never run.
Exactly. That's why you buy a mail train. You can run it with literally everything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
That's true.
Just buy a mail consist head end.
Well, it's like today I just got in your plated Santa Fe cars, Matt, and I was waiting for them, and I had the Blue Goose and the E8 to run with it, so I'm like, need to run it with something, so I run with some Pullmans. So, but now that I got the set, oh man, but that's a topic for another day.
Can Can you imagine if they had done a traditional scale Blue Goose back in the day in the 70s? How cool
Oh
that would have been.
man, that would have been something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man.
It would have looked like the J class.
Oh yeah, it would have been.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
I think Williams even did that actually. So we kind of
Yes, they did.
have because Williams would just put if it was streamlined J class, Tennessee in J class, Cincinnati in J class,
Yeah, Cincinnati, and yeah.
John Wilkes J class. Matt R, what about or sorry, Matt Z? What about you, sir? What do you want to see made, sir, in that kind of?
I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'll go with the crowd here. The whole 70s celebration thing. Doing going back to your roots with like your old school Jeeps and Steamers and F3s. I would love to see that. It's funny enough. I was looking the other day. Not that this really goes with this, but the Burlington post-war Jeep, the silver with the red with the black letter. I really want to see a scale version of that.
That would be.
If someone did that, I'd be all over that.
Yeah,
but definitely a throwback line or celebration line. I would love that because I always love those the throwback stuff. Like when Lionel did my favorite, and not that we can have a whole another topic on this too, but the scale state set they did I think is my favorite of all of the throwback ones they've done. That one is so nice. I really wish I got that.
The scale, the tin plate, the fake tin plate stuff with the freight train. Oh, I forgot all about that stuff.
Oh yeah, that is fantastic. I definitely want to see more of that. But no, on the 70s stuff, definitely a MPC or Fun Dimensions era throwback line. That'd be great.
That would be. Yeah, I'm thinking about the stuff that they have so much potential. Like if they're ever short on ideas, just remake something from back then in scale. It'll be a sleeper collectible because all those pieces have been sleeper collectibles.
Oh yeah, it's like the people who know about it buy it. The people who find out about it later on, be like, "Oh, I really like this," but it's long gone by the time they're ready to buy it. You can't find it at all. Enjoying this week's topic? You can join in on the conversation too on our community Discord server. We have a lot of different discussion channels ranging from showing off your collection, discussing the latest and greatest in the industry, a buy and sell forum, and even a voice channel you can hop on call and talk Trainz with us late into the night. We're a little over 300 strong and we'll love to have you join us too. Check out the invite link to our community Discord down in the show notes. Read and acknowledge the rules, and introduce yourself and start chatting. We have a great team of moderators who make sure all are welcomed and respected. So what are you waiting for? Come on down and join us in on the fun, and let's talk some Trainz.
Not at all. No, I'm with you on that. Johnny, what about you, man?
So kind of a similar vein, but a little bit different. So a piece that I associate with that time period that doing just a basic Google search, maybe I'm missing something, but I've yet to see one of these made in scale, at least in O scale. I'd like to see a scale version of the Seaboard bicentennial U-boat that they made. Never seen a scale one. You see the preamble and you see the Metka Santa Fe unit and the GG1, but not that engine.
That's a great point. That would literally, because the Lionel one is like the number and everything, isn't it exactly what the real one was? Why don't they do that? They would kill like 3 birds with one stone on that model.
Mm-hmm. It's a U-boat. It's bicentennial, and it's an obscure-ish road name that you don't see very often.
Well, Johnny, it's not actually the right model of U-boat. That one was really a U-30 like something B, and the Lionel one is a U-36C, and that's.
Well, now's their chance to make it right.
No, for real though, that would be great to see them do, even if it was like a quasi fantasy scheme on one of the bigger U-boats. That would be great to see.
Mm-hmm, for sure. But yeah, I think it's one that's quite often overlooked. Yet you for the TM days, it was plastered all over the place, especially during their Freedom Train segment they did for I Live Toy Trains. So.
Oh yeah, when you're running that was what the engine, like 3 or 4 cars.
Yeah, with the preamble cars behind it. Yeah. But that's my vote.
That's a good man. These are all fantastic suggestions. I love this, Lionel. Again, we're getting you free ideas here. Let's get on it. Come on. Good stuff, guys. Well, hey, thank you all so much for just Brendon. Thank you for being here with us. It's been a really good, show here, and we want to thank the listeners here. We have an amazing community, and let's take a moment here before we end to shout out some of our fantastic people who have boosted our server and help keep the lights on here at the Miniature Models Podcast. So, we would like to thank this week Blue Comet Fan 833. Newt 1969, Bill B from the OM&S Railway, SDIV_Tim, Mr. Dashing Dan's Trainz, Matty C Trainz, Commodore Ghost Ninja, The Rambles, Hard Work Pays Off, Tim's Trainz, Every Day is Life, and SD70 Train Fan. Guys, thank you all so much for boosting the server and keeping us going here. We always say we make this podcast because we love you all. And we really mean it. It's a fantastic show. We always enjoy having people on and just discussing these fantastic topics with you all. So let's go ahead and just wrap things up here. We appreciate you guys very much. Tonight was a great show, but our stop is coming up next. The giant psychedelic lava lamp that's been put out from the signal cabin is begging us to stop here. So where can folks find you, Brendon? Go ahead and plug your socials there.
Okay, that you can find me on Instagram with I Want My MPC, and that's where I mostly do all my posting and communication.
Fantastic. That's I Want My MPC, folks, not I Want My MTV. Matt R., where can folks find you, sir?
Money for nothing and chicks for free?
That ain't working.
You can find me on YouTube at WC Model Railroad. I'm on Instagram at WC Model Railroad and on Facebook at, you guessed it, WC Model Railroad. And thank you so much, Brendon, for joining us and talking about the 70s. And I think it's the first time we ever really talked about that era. So the show went really well, and I really enjoyed the topic. So thanks for coming on.
I'm glad you had me. I really enjoyed our discussion as well.
Absolutely. Mr. Matt Z, where can folks find you, sir?
You can find me on YouTube under Matt-Trainlover9943. Facebook under the same name. Instagram, Matt's.hobbies. And also on the Miniature Models Discord server. It's always a fun time down there. And again, just like Matt, big thanks, Brendon, for coming on. Great topic and a ton of fun talking to you.
Thanks, likewise.
Yes, indeedy. Thank you, Matt, for being here, because I can never remember the combo of numbers that are at the end of your username whenever I try to plug you. I'm like, Matt's Hobbies is numbers of 4 or 5. I'm like, they'll find him. They'll look for the number combo. They'll find him.
Yeah, you'll figure me out. I thought about changing the name to something different, but I don't know. Maybe
had it for so
do that.
Long, though. It's
I know, right?
It's like the branding. You want to keep brand consistency.
Honestly,
Matt Train Lover, and just add one more digit onto what the number is.
Yes.
Wouldn't they always do something? Actually, go back to comic books for a second. What's the thing they would always do in when they put X on it, like Superman X in the 90s or something like that? Wasn't that a thing? What would they always do? They did something like that with new versions.
Well, they would obviously just slightly change, the title of it. So no, you had the Spectacular Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, the Unscrupulous Spider-Man, the Ambiguous Spider-Man,
insubordinate Spider-Man.
Yeah. I think that I believe in the 90s, it was just called Spider-Man, and guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Todd McFarlane series was just Spider-Man. That was it.
Spooderman. I love it. Mr. Johnny, where can folks find you, sir?
You can find me on YouTube at Audamus. That's Audamus. I recently uploaded a new video talking about my restoration project for that GP38-2. I know 2 videos within less than 2 months. That's a new record for me. It usually takes me 4 years to make a video. So please check that out. It was a lot of fun and pretty short video. So if you want for a quick watch, check that out. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at anonymous_Trainz. I am usually a lot more active on there, though I've taken a small break, but I've got some new goodies I want to show off, so check me out there. And last but not least, you can find me on the Miniature Models Podcast Community Discord, where I am reading and responding to all of your posts and making a fool of myself in the voice chat. So come on down. It's lots of fun. Brendon, thank you so much for joining us, as the other guys have said. Definitely walking away from this episode with a lot more insight and appreciation for the MPC and Fundamentals era. So I will be looking into more stuff there. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks. I'm glad to be a guest for this episode.
Of course. And John, throwing it back to you, man. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at RetroMikado96 and on YouTube at just RetroMikado. I swear to God, I will have the second part of the Big Year in Review video out soon. I'm not going to give myself a timeline because I don't want to have to adhere to it and hear about it when I don't live up to it. But it's coming. It'll be in the works here, and it'll just be even better when it comes out for waiting so long as it has been. But yes, I am quite active on our wonderful Discord as well, the Miniature Models Podcast Community Discord. You can hang out with all of us, talk and have fun, and just discuss all the wonderful new things that are coming out, or just shoot the breeze with all of us. And also want to plug our brand new, well, kind of new and revamped Instagram account we are now running. We've announced that we are doing something kind of unique and different. If you want to come follow us on there, it is Miniature Models Podcast on Instagram. You can follow the adventures of our mascot, the nickel plate bluebird MMP Alco PA. Boy, that's a lot of MMP PA. Yeah, we've gotten, for those of you who haven't seen yet, we have acquired a beautiful 3-rail O-scale model of our namesake little logo there, and we're going to be doing some really cool stuff to it, getting some of our friends involved, and it's going to be our little tour guide and mascot there floating around the country, going to all these fantastic places. So if you guys want to follow that journey of the engine's customization and where it's going to be heading in the future, be sure to go check us out on Instagram at the Miniature Models Podcast Instagram account. Guys, thank you all so much. This was a great show. Thank you for being on again, Brendon. We've lauded you quite well. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, and enjoy the rest of your week, and hope you guys who were listening enjoyed the show.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah, take good care, everyone.
Yeah, good night.